Welcome to our August 28th, 2024 Board of Douglas County Commissioners 5:30 business meeting. There are paper copies of the agenda behind all the folks standing in the back there by the door, if you'd like them, and the entire packet is available online. For this evening, we did have a work session earlier at 4. We'll have our business meeting now, starting with a proclamation, and then we will move into our consent agenda. So the way our consent agenda works, any member of the commission and then any member of the public can pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion, and we'll get to that in a moment. After that, we'll have general public comment. We welcome general public comment for addressing issues that are not on today's agenda, but otherwise related to county business. So if you've come to speak on the revenue neutral or the budgets, then those would wait until those items come up. Given our limited time and the need to have an orderly and efficient meeting, we apply certain rules regarding public comment. A recent Kansas federal court decision has provided additional clarity regarding standards for public comment. We've updated our practices accordingly. So we'll do our best to enforce the rules consistently and without regard to the point of view of the speaker, and we will make sure that everybody gets to have their say. Each speaker then will be limited to a total of 3 minutes of speaking time. However, we always accept public comment in writing, and we have some that are in our packet and others that have come to us over email. Individual speakers may not donate unused time to other speakers. All comments must address topics within the jurisdiction of the County Commission. We will also maintain the decorum of our meeting. Therefore, we prohibit public comments that are threatening, aggressively hostile, or belligerent, fighting words, slander, or speech that invades the privacy of individuals, unreasonably loud, disruptive, or repetitive, or that interrupt or substantially interfere with the board's ability to conduct county business. We do reserve the right to mute or remove any speaker who violates these public comment rules. At that time, we'd ask for your name and address for our meeting minutes and then address your comments up to the commission. Please know that comments received by the commission during our meetings do not necessarily represent the views of Douglas County government, but that we value the input. We don't usually respond to general public comment on the spot. We will, of course, be taking up the items that many, I think, of you have come for. But if you leave contact information with county staff, we'll try and get specific questions answered. After that, we'll move to our regular agenda, which I think is what many of you are here for. At that time, for each action item, we'll hear from staff or the applicant, followed by questions from the commission, and then open that item up for public comment relevant to that item. Once public comment is closed, we bring each item back to the commission for further discussion and a vote. Lastly, a recording of this meeting will be available on the county's YouTube page and website. So with that, we are beginning with a proclamation. Commissioners, I believe Commissioner Kelly is going to read our proclamation, and this is for community health facilities.
I think we have some people here to receive the proclamation and might want to say a few words afterwards. This is for recognition of the Community Health Facility's 25th anniversary. Whereas the citizens of Lawrence Douglas County have benefited from a combined 279 years of service from Burt Nash Community Mental Health Center, Lawrence Douglas County Health Department, and the Douglas County Visiting Nurses Association, occupants of the Community Health Facility. And whereas on November 8th, 1994, the citizens of Lawrence and Douglas County voted to approve a 1-cent sales tax in part to support the construction of the Community Health Facility. And whereas on November 13th, 1999, the Community Health Facility opened its doors to the public. And whereas over the past 25 years, through the Burt Nash Community Mental Health Center, Lawrence Douglas County Public Health Department, and the Douglas County Visiting Nurses Association, more than 800,000 people have been directly served by this facility. Whereas in recognition of the 25th anniversary of the Community Health Facility, a celebration of building 25 years of community service was held on August 23rd. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County, Kansas, hereby extend our deepest appreciation to the community for its public support of community health services as expressed by the willingness to build a community health facility, adopted this 20th day of August 2024. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Thank you for being here.
I'm Michelle Watson. I am the Director of Operational Excellence for Visiting Nurses Association. I also have with me Julie Hedge. She is our Director of Clinical Services. Cynthia Lewis was not able to join us tonight, so I'm going to do my best impression of her. I'm proud to join my fellow executive leaders for this proclamation recognizing the 25th anniversary of the Community Health Facility. Okay, actually I'm horrible at impressions, but I am good-ish at math. You see, for the past 25 years, or 9,125 days, or 219,000 hours, or 13,140,000 minutes, give or take leap years, we have had the privilege to share the community health facility with two wonderful agencies and community partners, the Burt Nash Center and Lawrence Douglas County Public Health. We couldn't ask for better neighbors.
Hi, Patrick Schmitz, Burt Nash CEO. We are forever grateful for the community support, which has paved the way for the construction of the community health facility. I know I speak for the three agencies when I say what an honor it is to serve the residents of Douglas County. We all have our unique missions, yet we all share the common goal of bettering the lives of our fellow citizens.
Evening, Commission. Jonathan Smith, the Executive Director at Lawrence Douglas County Public Health. We're very fortunate to live and work in a place that recognizes the need for community health services. And we're certainly are fortunate to have the generous support of our local government, including Douglas County. It's truly because of you and because of our community support that thousands upon thousands of lives have been changed for the better during these past 25 years.
So thank you, County. Thank you, Commissioners. We couldn't do what we do without you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Kelly has your proclamation. Thank you very much for being here. That brings us to our consent agenda. First, Commissioners, do you have any items from consent agenda that you would like to pull for further discussion? Okay. Is there any member of the public who would like to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? 2.4. Any others? Okay, Sarah, do we have anyone online? Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion for the remainder of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. 2.4 is for the sheriff's contract for turnkey health clinics. And do we have someone from the sheriff's office who would like to speak on this? Do you have anything you'd like to address before we do public comment on it? We'd have to come.
What I can do, Commissioner Gary Bunting with the Sheriff's Office, I can provide a little background on our reason for switching or requesting to move to a different company.
Can you pull that mic up to you? You can
Yep,
just pick it up.
sorry.
You can just hold it up there, Gary.
What's that?
You can just hold it up there.
Okay. So our current medical provider is Advanced Correctional Healthcare. They provide inmate medical services at the correctional facility. We've been with that company since approximately 2016. In the past, we have had a very good working relationship. Really, the difference is we've just started to notice over the past few years. I just want to be clear, we've never had any issues with inmate medical care and services being provided to the inmates. Our current staff do an excellent job locally. Our problems have primarily been at the corporate level. Most of the issues, I think, can probably be summarized with overall lack of communication and customer service at the corporate level. We've seen over time, we've had difficulty renewing contracts. I'm sorry, I have to put my glasses on since I'm old here. So, for instance, the past several years, I'll start asking the company for a renewed contract in September, and it takes forever talking to multiple personnel to be able to get a contract. The past few times, our contract has lapsed, and it ended up not being signed until probably the latter half of January. We've had several instances to where we've had kind of surprises for billing. For instance, last July, the company, and I very rarely receive any type of these notifications from our client representatives. Normally, they're routed to me through, for instance, our nurse manager who works out there at the jail, but it was probably around 4th of July last year, they notified us that the company had not been billing us for holiday hours, and that they were going to need to start doing that. The company's quite aware that we need to be notified by March, April of each year for any major budget issues to be able to plan accordingly when we go before the commission. Ultimately, that resulted in the following year contract increase of approximately $100,000 of unanticipated expenses that we didn't know were coming. We've had issues. The state of Kansas allows sheriffs across the state to pay outside inmate medical expenses, which means any medical issue that we can't handle within the facility, we have to send them out to specialists out in the community. Those are what we would consider outside medical expenses. Part of that is included in the contract, but we also have a separate line item for that. But the state statute permits us to be able to reimburse those expenses at the Medicaid rate. So we contract with our current company to reprice those for us so that they're paid at the Medicaid rate, and then payment of those bills. That lapsed for a significant period of time. There were several month spans that probably starting last year leading into this year where our bills weren't being paid last year leading into this year. So now we're kind of trying to play catch up for things that should have been paid the previous year. It's just one more example. I think really probably the final issue for us was kind of treatment of personnel. They are, even though they're contract employees who are not employed by Douglas County, they are very much a part of our team. We work very closely together. The company employs a number of different types of personnel from the medical community. It's usually certified medication aides, LPNs, RNs, nurse practitioners, and physicians. And I'm not aware of the full details, but the company had a negative incident involving LPNs and basically made the decision without communicating with us, who most of our employees were LPNs, that they were going to begin the process of eliminating them from their programs. So they started off company-wide. That's a story in of itself, but basically they provided no information from us. We had to hear it from the employees. They told some employees they could stay if they enrolled in further education, then turned around a week later and told them no, that was not the case. They would only have a couple months left. Basically, there is very little transparency during price increases that they presented to us. They will not provide a breakdown of how those increases are laid out or where they're being allocated. That's just kind of a quick summary, but predominantly the overall issue is a lack of communication and customer service, which we feel we need to look for a different vendor to provide those services. But I do need to note, we've taken the steps, if approved by the commission, our current staff would be retained and not lose any pay. So we've ensured that the contract costs would cover being able to retain our current staff.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions before public comment?
I would just add that the contract that the sheriff's office is moving to was competitively bid, and we are piggybacking on that contract for these services.
This is a public hearing item. Is there anyone who would like to give public comment on this? You can come on up.
So the reason I brought this down, I appreciate all the clarity because I did have a couple questions about what was going on with the reason why we were leaving. But more to what Sarah spoke to, I noticed that we're piggybacking off of another contract, and this is another time. And I looked through the documents and I didn't see a lot of the RFP itself. So you three commissioners are going to rely on the RFP process of another commission. Have you even been able to review how that RFP process was done? Or whether it was another situation where we have a lot of times around here where contracts get put out that go to places that maybe there's somebody else that could have done it better. But I'm not seeing that we're piggybacking off of something else, and apparently we're allowing the sheriff to make that decision of where he was going to piggyback. Are there other contracts that we can piggyback off of? And then do we have to piggyback off of this one? What if we put out our own RFP process for the specialized needs that this county needs versus it's a state out west, I believe, that has the contract, but their needs may be slightly variable from what we need. And is there somebody that's going to be able to provide those? And have we even looked? Because I get the impression that we haven't even really looked. Yeah.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment on this item? Sarah, do we have anyone online? Okay, Major Bunting, do you have anything you'd like to respond to, or you?
Yes, Commissioner, I can at least answer some of Mr. Ravi's questions. So they're in the medical provider field for inmate services, the vendors are somewhat limited. You have vendors that provide services for extremely large facilities and those that focus on smaller, mid-sized facilities, which is ours. You won't even be able to get some of the larger companies to be able to bid. The companies we looked at, we wanted a company that was reliable and had a positive history. A number of the other companies, we did not look at them because some of them have had to file bankruptcy, restructure. While this did go through an RFP process specifically for Butler County's needs, we did make modifications to the program that were tailored for our needs. So we are receiving a program that is tailored for our specific needs.
Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or motions?
Just a motion to approve consent agenda item 2.4. Thank you, Major Bunting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. So that does bring us to general public comment. And just a note for folks who are coming in, this is for items that are not on our agenda. If you've come to speak on the R&R notice, that revenue neutral rate notice for either the county or for Consolidated Fire District 1, or to talk about the budgets for the county or Consolidated Fire District 1, those items will come up to us shortly. So actually to hold those comments for that, and there will be public comment there. But this is a time for general public comment for items that are not on our agenda. Is there anyone who would like to give general public comment? Okay, come on up.
Why are all these other signs allowed here tonight? You all are lucky you got a message on your signs that they approve of. Otherwise, you might find yourself unlawfully arrested like I was. My name is Dr. Justin Spees. On May 1st of this year, I stood right here holding this exact same sign that says women have more balls than Patrick too. And as I began to speak, Karen, you interrupted and said, I'm afraid we're not going to allow the sign. I asked what was wrong with the sign and you declined to answer. You then had my microphone shut off saying I could no longer talk during my general public comment, and you had the sheriff called. I went and stood right over there, right where I was standing this whole time, peacefully and quietly for over half an hour. And then Shannon Reed, you stopped me. You stopped the meeting to say to me that I had made my point and that you had been patient, which means this was all about the sign and your attempt to control it and limit my free speech. You then said I was standing too close to staff, and then that I was blocking a traffic way, but none of that was true. And so here we are today, same sign, standing in the same place, saying the same things, and I'm allowed to say it this time. Why? Prior to this, on April 17th, I was stopped from speaking because I said about Patrick Kelly, quote, "This guy sounds like a real wimp." I'm saying it now. This guy sounds like a real wimp. Why aren't you stopping me? On April 24th, I said, Patrick, you are far, far below being a real man. And you, Karen Wiley, said, I'm afraid we're not going to allow personal insults. I said, it's about his character. I then said, I have more balls than Patrick too. And Karen, you shut off my microphone. Well, I'm saying it again today. I have more balls than Patrick too. Why am I allowed to say it today? Is that an admission of your guys' guilt that you violated my First Amendment rights? Your guys' motion to dismiss my lawsuit against you for these incidents says that I was actively yelling, and that was the reason that I was arrested. And you quoted Lieutenant Channel, who's named in the lawsuit because she had me unlawfully arrested at the direction of Armbruster and you guys. She said that the problem was when she walks in and I was actively yelling. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. Not only was I not yelling, nobody in this room was yelling until she walked in and they started booing her because they knew what was happening was wrong. So it's a straight up lie. Matter of fact, I've been standing here this whole time. Look, I'll go stand over here right now. I'm standing here right now. Nothing. It's allowed this time. Why is it allowed? What's different? I'm close to staff here. Not blocking a traffic way, as evidenced earlier. That guy that came and spoke just walked right up the middle there. I made my point, right, Shannon? I made my point, so you can control what I say, right? And how I say it.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give general public comment? I'd remind folks there are some chairs here at the front that can pull back to make another front row if you want to have some seats.
Turn your sign around. Turn your sign around. Okay, I want to quote the word Nazis. And I want to point out that word because what they've just given you instructions is what you can and can't say up here. I don't care if there's a budget topic after this or not. Your guys' excessive spending is out of control. So whoever back here is holding the excessive spending sign, they can talk about excessive spending all they want. And then as far as the way that things have gotten out of control, somebody has here a pay-as-you-go farce sign back there, I think it was. If they can show that to you, that would be awesome, a pay-as-you-go farce. So these are budget issues. So don't let them tell you that you can't come up here and talk about these budget issues right now. What they're trying to do is limit your ability to come up here and free speak. We do deserve a rebate on our taxes. You guys have a ton of money in the bank. You need to cut your property taxes and exhibit some integrity. She has a sign back there that says exhibit integrity. And that's not something we've been seeing. But another one has a sign back there that says accountability, and that's what this looks like to me. This is some accountability here. This is your taxpayers here telling you things, and you need to listen to them. You see the lady right here with the sign that says listen to the people? They're talking to you. So everybody that has those signs, they should really come up right now, right after me, and speak their mind, because these commissioners are not going to shut them down because they're too damned afraid to shut me down.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give general public comment?
Yeah, I would. My name's Dan Cady, and I'm a Douglas County taxpayer. You know, I look at this and I think, wait a minute. What happened with the mill levy last year? Why wasn't it reduced last year? Or the year before? Or the year before? Or the year before? Why is it this year? Oh, wait. Willie and Reed are up for re-election. What a coincidence.
So just a case in point, this is the third year we've lowered the mill levy in a row, and we'll hear more about that shortly.
My taxes went up 15% last year. And with the mill levy that you proposed,
Go ahead.
I looked at my evaluation.
Point of order, like we have,
And it's going up again.
so I'm going to ask the chair to remember, to
She
remind,
interrupted me, so can I talk?
to remind the public
speaking, I'm
commenter that
speaking.
we have a structure and that we've asked that you hold comments on specific agenda items till later in the agenda. There will be an opportunity for public comment then. I understand that you don't want to follow that rule, but that is our rule.
So we will have opportunity for both the R&R. There'll be 4 different times for a comment about items that are on the agenda. Is there anyone who would care to give public comment on items that are not yet on our agenda?
I have someone online.
Okay, go ahead.
Sherilyn Wells, I am moving you into the panel for public comment.
Okay.
So you're going to create another lawsuit, Sarah? You're going to create another one right there.
So Sherilyn is in the panel, and it's her turn for public comment. Sherilyn, you can come off mute and provide your public comment.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can, Sherilyn.
Okay. I hope that you commissioners will read the article in the Lawrence Times about the mobile response team. It seems concerning, and also read the comments that people are saying. I don't necessarily have a problem with the people that work for them, but they have gone through 12 employees in that one program this year. And there seems to be something wrong with, I hate to say it, the management. And it was the same thing with the Treatment and Recovery Center. And people seem to be afraid to speak out because, not that Bert Nash doesn't do a good job for a lot of people, but my feeling is people are afraid to speak out and say things because they will get some kind of retribution. I find it concerning that they said that people were just sitting in an office doing nothing, and I understand people are in different programs, but at the same time, of course, I've said the same thing before, there was somebody in the park right by them, not too far, that died the first cold day we had here, that appeared to have severe and persistent mental illness. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem like a good use of funds. The other thing, of course, you don't control this, but I'm concerned about the sweeps when there is clearly not enough shelter. There's only like 175 and there's over 400 people homeless. So I don't know what exactly the sweeps are going to accomplish, except pushing people further out into the woods somewhere where they feel like they can hide from people. The other thing that concerns me is while they're talking about, going around these camps, I see people sitting downtown, some of whom I know and have known. There's one guy that clear back when we had transitional housing like 25 years ago, has been homeless most of that time. There are a few people that sit down there that have this 10,000-mile sort of stare that really look in bad condition. And I'd like to ask somebody, why are those people just sitting there on that sidewalk, looking half dead practically? And people will say that it's treatment resistance. And that's the explanation of why they're sitting there and why they aren't someplace. If I had more time, I believe in housing first. Absolutely do. And it's complicated. It isn't just putting people into apartments. That is not what it is. I think it's very effective, though, for certain people.
Sherilyn, we could come to the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give general public comment not on the budget items? Is this not on the budget items?
Hey, Melanie Kaufman, rural Douglas County. So this is the first time that I've had a chance to address the commissioners since the last commission meeting on August 14th, where Mr. Bovee asked some very serious questions about the 2023 audited financials and some things not seen in previous years. And so at that time, the vote proceeded without these questions being explored, and the audit was subsequently approved but I still have some questions that I hope that you do too, such as how does a budget, a predictive guess, and I'm applying this to 2023 audited financials, how does that budget match the expenditures which was actually spent exactly to the dollar, to the penny? Why was there a vote taken when there are plans to amend the 2023 audited financial statements? What will be amended? And will there be another vote? Will there be public transparency into that? And I'm asking that these answers be provided to the public, the taxpayers, before proceeding with tonight's 2025 budget approval vote. An additional comment, the county administrator has great responsibility as well as great influence over the county budget. For this reason, I believe it's very important for her to hear our conversations without distraction. Our conversations to you, of course. And for that reason, I'm respectfully asking that you delegate the timekeeping responsibility to someone else so that she can listen without distraction. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Campbell. These are the words of Patrick Henry in 1775. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time as this through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself of treason towards my country and an act of disloyalty toward the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings. Thank you.
Come on up.
Brad Shun, Douglas County resident. I live in North Lawrence. Commissioners, thank you. I would like to know how, in good conscience, the board can move to consider approving the proposed budget for 2025 when the work is not yet complete on the 2023 budget.
Sir, we'll have a comment, we'll have plenty of comments about the budget in a
This is following
moment.
up on her comments. The 2023 audited fund, are you muting me? The 2023 audited fund.
It's still going.
All right,
Yeah.
appreciate it. The 2023 audited financials have obvious material misstatements in amounts exceeding $30 million. The fact that the board has certified this audited budget with all of its glaring faults after being informed and alerted to its misstatements by experts from our community shows that you have abdicated your responsibilities as commissioners to have oversight of the preparation and certification of these documents and instead chose to be rubber stamps for the administration. Is it not your job to be representatives of the people? Is it not your duty to steward the people's money with the utmost prudence and care? This cannot be swept under the rug. I urge the board to delay today's vote, to revisit and re-examine the 2023 certified budget, present the people with the corrected actual numbers, and own the mistakes instead of moving forward and compounding them today. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to give general public comment? Sarah, do we have anyone online? All right. That we will close general public comment and we will move to our regular agenda. So the first item on our agenda is to conduct the public hearing to receive comment on the revenue neutral rate for Douglas County and for our county cemetery districts. And I will turn that to Sarah for some background.
Thank you, commissioners. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you, commissioners. I'm going to review the revenue neutral process, and then I'm going to have a separate presentation for the county budget. So this is mostly going to focus on the revenue neutral process. This is the budget calendar that county staff and community partners and elected officials worked through this year. Our budget year starts in March. where we begin to work on putting pieces of the county budget together. So I'm not going to read you every date on those, but our process starts long before tonight. This then specifically narrows in on the revenue neutral rate. We finished our budget deliberations and hearings. The County Commission held over 20 hours of public hearings on the budget that wrapped up on July 16th. The statutory deadline to notify the county clerk of the intent to exceed revenue neutral rate is the 20th. On the 7th, we had a detailed review of our capital improvement plan and Consolidated Fire District 1 public hearing. And then the revenue neutral rate letter is sent by the county clerk to taxpayers. We had our notices published in the paper, and tonight is our hearing and adoption of the budget. This is some information related to the mill levy reduction proposed for the 2025 budget. Douglas County has lowered the mill levy in 2024. This year's 2.9 mill decrease is the largest decline in almost 30 years. The last decrease of this time was associated with the passage of a 1-cent sales tax. This is the third year in a row that we have lowered your mill levy. Since 2021, the mill levy has declined by 13%. The increase of 1.2 mills in 2022 is a result of a cost transfer related to the Lawrence Douglas County Fire Medical Agreement from the City of Lawrence. If you take school districts out, 17 of the 45 taxing districts in Douglas County are the only entities that lowered their mill levy rate last year. This is information related to the budgeted mill levy and our reductions and its impact on average taxpayers. The 2024 taxes on a county property valued $300,000 in 2024 was $1,525. Next year, a $300,000 home will pay less, $1,425. For a $600,000 home, that's $200 less. For a $200,000 home, that's $67 less. So this is our assessed valuation growth history over the last 10 years. The past 5 years average 7.5%, but our 10-year average is closer to 5.98. Previous to 2020, assessed valuation in Douglas County was between 3 and 5%. As you can see, with our assessed value increase for 2024 at 6.9, we're returning down to those numbers of single-digit assessed valuation increases. So this is just some information related to the revenue neutral rate. In March of 2021, the Kansas legislature passed the law that required clerks to send out this notice. The R&R is a mill levy rate used to generate the exact same amount of property tax revenue as the year before using the current taxing year's total assessed valuation. If a taxing jurisdiction plans to use even one more dollar, we need to have a revenue neutral rate hearing and hold a public hearing. Taxing jurisdictions that need to exceed that are required to have the public hearing and take a roll call vote on the resolution. And we can, every organization does it a little bit differently, and the County Commission has chosen to do their revenue neutral rate hearing and the adoption of their budget on the same night. Part of this is because Douglas County has moved up its budget process so that we can give good numbers to the clerk when we do our revenue neutral rate notices. 9 taxing districts out of 45 in Douglas County did not exceed the revenue neutral rate. So most taxing districts did exceed the revenue neutral rate. The only ones who didn't were 4 drainage districts, 2 cemeteries, 2 townships, and 2 school districts. So Douglas County's revenue neutral rate would be 41.215. The 2025 proposed budget has a rate of 41.298. That is a difference of $1.91 on a house valued at $200,000 and 2% in R&R growth rate, significantly less than the rate of inflation. And commissioners, that's all I have on the revenue neutral rate hearing.
I just think it's worth reiterating that we're proposing to lower taxes this year, our taxing rate, our mill levy, which is our taxing authority. We did lower our taxing authority, our mill levy last year and the year before. Those 2 years, 22 and 23, had such great increases in valuation that it neutralized the work that we did there. We are finally catching up. There is still work to be done. We have given back, in my 2 years, over 10% of our total property taxing authority. Douglas County has given back to taxpayers as an appropriate response to the increases in valuation that have been so steep. In the last 3 years, which includes before I was here, that's almost 13%. I think that's unheard of among taxing jurisdictions in our county. Most of them are talking about how do we increase our mill levy, in addition to capturing all of the valuation increase. This is a very unique conversation that we have been able to have here. We have underspent our budget and turned that money back to the taxpayers. That feels like a very appropriate response. On your tax bill, it includes all of the taxing jurisdictions. So on mine in the rural area, there's about a dozen. In town, there are fewer. Douglas County is in charge of collecting the taxes for all those jurisdictions. The state requires us that we do that. The Douglas County line is the only one we have any influence over. So, commissioners, do you have any questions, thoughts for Sarah before we turn to public comment? Anything? All right, we will open this up. This is the revenue neutral rate conversation. We will also have a conversation with more specifics about the Douglas County budget that will come next. And then we will hear a revenue neutral rate conversation and have public comment for CFD1, that's Consolidated Fire District 1, and their budget. So go ahead.
Great. Rich Lorenzo, rural Douglas County. I'm back here again, guys. Last year I told you that Douglas County residents were struggling, and since 2021, the cost of living for Douglas County families has risen sharply, and it appears that things have only gotten worse. As a candidate for the commission, I have been talking to Douglas County residents in Baldwin City, South Lawrence, and out in the county, and I hear the same things. We are barely making it. We are working 2 jobs to pay the bills. I'm moving out of this county. Please get us tax relief. My property taxes have doubled. Spending at the county is out of control. And the most heartbreaking one, I've lived in this home for 25 years, and I'm going to have to sell because I can't keep up with the taxes and insurance. Then I noticed that on my recent tax statement, the property tax portion from Douglas County went down a little bit this year, about $100. And I was like, wow, they actually listened. Then I stopped and thought for a second, wait, I can't be fooled by that. My taxes from the Douglas County portion have increased by a couple thousand over the last 4 years. And the commission decides to give me $100 back. It's like someone stealing $2,000 from you, and when you say give it back, they hand you $100 and say, let's call it good. Now, you, along with the Journal World, might be able to sell the public that you are cutting mills and lowering taxes, but the damage this commission has done to raise stress levels and increase the financial hardship of our county residents over the past 4 years is incalculable. The last 4 years, you have inflated the budget, underspent, and stockpiled over $160 million in cash. That $160 million has been taken out of our local economy and not been spent at our local businesses in this tough economic climate. My question to you tonight is, since you overtaxed us and you have this $160 million when $30 million would be a normal reserve, what are your plans? What are your plans with that money? Do you plan to use this money to fund the Judicial and Law Enforcement Center renovations? Do you plan to do this without a county-wide vote? Do you plan to use the reserve funds to expand the jail even after the Douglas County voters voted it down a few years ago? Do you plan to do this without a county-wide vote? Maybe your plan all along is to follow the city of Lawrence. Almost 10 years ago, the citizens of Lawrence voted against the sales tax to fund the new police station, but the city still built it anyway by using a property tax increase and not putting it before the voters. Commissioners, I don't know what your plan for this bloated savings account is, but the taxpayers of Douglas County deserve a say on how their money is being used. And furthermore, the people you serve deserve more tax relief than you are offering. Give the people back their money, especially after the past 4 years of overtaxation. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Who would like to go next? Would anyone like to give public comment? Can come on up.
Melanie Kaufman, rural Douglas County. So normally the assessed property valuations are balanced with the county's needs or requests, what they actually need. And this is the equation for determining the mill levy. But now, for several years, you've introduced another variable, and that's the underspent from the previous year. And that you're saying that you were able to give us back $6 million this year out of a fund balance of $22 million carryover. That's just for fiscal year 2024. Is that true? So have you forgotten about the property assessed valuation variable? And did you consider reducing the mill levy based on the increased assessed valuations? I'm not sure that that whole equation that you're calculating all those variables into that. Also, isn't it backwards to begin budget deliberations considering the assessed valuations? So the beginning of the budget hearings, you started with, this is the amount of money we have from the assessed valuations. Isn't that backwards? Shouldn't you start with, what does the county need? You said that you moved from unspent dollars to fund balance, which is transferred to capital improvement for projects like the JLE building, which is not requiring a tax increase. And I do not understand that, because inflating the budget or saying that you're being very conservative with the budget and always having overages, at least since 2017 that we've seen, plus keeping the excess is inflicting a tax increase. And what's worse, it's a significant tax increase, and it's happened without a vote. You've removed the voice of the people. So in place of the $6 million that you've given back, which we are appreciative of, we would be happy with the $22 million given back in overage from the previous year, plus an honest reconciliation to account for the rise in property assessments, as well as returning to an honest evaluation of what the county actually needs. Thanks.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next?
Brian Farley. I was here last year. I started a small group of taxpayers called the Douglas County Taxpayers Association. And we have quite a few more people here, and that's not all my responsibility. I know that other people have been getting very active in this area too. But what I wanted to address was this idea that we're lowering the mill levy and we're doing it consistently, and therefore that is providing tax relief to the citizens of Douglas County. What you're doing when you make that argument is you're leaving out the issue of valuation increases. So by providing only half of the picture, you're essentially gaslighting people into believing that what you're saying is actually being done for their benefit. So I'm just going to give a very specific example, which is my own. My county tax in 2012 was $848. In 2023, $1,758.06. So over a 100% increase. If you look at the last 3 years, 1494 to 1622 to 1758, why is it going up so much? Because the property valuation is going up in terms of $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 every year. Now, is that justified? We don't know. We have no insight into the valuation process. What we do know is that valuations are done by a county employee. That employee responds to the county administrator. The county administrator responds to you. And if we re-elect you, we'll get more of the same. If we elect new people who do not agree with what you are doing, we can change that. And that is my position. We need to change the county commission.
Who would like to go next?
I don't see everybody jumping, so I'm going to take my little time to make sure that everybody understands. Huh? But this is part of the budget. And this is a big part of the budget that you got, and this is just like what happened at the city meeting, that people are going to wait to talk about the budget. But right now, this is a big part of the budget. They're having to have this specific meeting and this specific open forum right now because what they're actually doing is exceeding the revenue neutral rate. And that's where it begins. We have to stop the exceeding of the revenue neutral rate in order to start getting some constraints on the budget. This is basic, math 101, isn't it? We've got some accountants in here, but until we can control why they're having to raise the mill levy, or raise it, but lower it not enough or whatever. But the reason they're having this is because they're exceeding, their spending is going up. And we need to address why. And their spending going up is not keeping up with our increases. And we have to have our own little mill levy. We don't get to adjust it like you guys do. We're stuck. And it's just like I said at the city meeting. We don't get to go to the boss and say, hey, having a tough time, I'm going to need to take more money from whatever you're earning. We don't get that option, but you guys do. And somebody said something about it a minute ago, and it made me think about that Goodfellas thing, where they're walking through the thing and they're talking about the mob and you have a fire, fuck you, pay me. Lightning strike your house, fuck you, pay me. Have a bad day in business, fuck you, pay me. That's really how you guys are acting. You're acting like gangsters. And people need to come up and speak right now about the fact that they have to keep having these revenue neutral hearings, because this is where the budget process begins.
Come on up.
My name's Dan Cady. I'd like to talk again. You put up your charts and you say, okay, we lowered the mill levy and the evaluations only went up so much. Well, when I get my tax bill, I can see what it went up. Went up 14% last year. And I'm looking at my valuation this year has gone up substantially. And even with the mill levy decrease, I'm going to get an increase in taxes. So you sit here and you say you're going to lower our taxes because it's an election year, and the only way to hold you accountable is for people to get out, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, and say if you like your taxes going up every year, elect Willie, elect Reed. But if you don't like it, vote them out. Vote them out.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Go ahead.
Wayne Kaufman, rural Douglas County. Is there a variability on this volume? Thank you. Thank you also, Sarah. I want to commend you on your wonderful presentation here of the smoke and mirrors that you put out on what the budget is doing. I'm glad to be here again this year to talk to you. I know it will do no good. I know you're going to pass it because it says right here, this is an adopted past tense budget. You've already done it in your minds. All you have to do is make the formalities. You just have to go through the formalities. And so thank you very much for allowing us peons to be here to say the same things that we did last year, only now we're a little bit smarter. We've learned a little bit about how you steal the money from the taxpayer, put it into a capital improvements plan, and then spend it on whatever you have in mind to do without ever paying attention to what the taxpayers are doing. This page also says, if you will, that the commissioners spent 17 hours. I'll give you the 20 hours. I don't care. That's fine. In public hearings to review $20 million in supplemental requests, demonstrating their commitment to a thorough and transparent budget process. Yes, last year you told us after we were done that we didn't spend enough time with you in those 17 or 20 hours. Well, let me ask you this. What input did we have? This tonight is the only input that we have. We have not been able to give public comment on those public hearings, in spite of the fact that it sounds good. There's some more of that smoke in the mirrors. So it sounds really good, but you're just not paying attention. And I guess that's the process. That is our public process. That is our democracy. And we'll have to wait and see how it comes out on November the 6th. Thank you very much for keeping me on time, sir.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment on the R&R?
Hi, my name is Amanda Barron, and I'm resident of Southern Douglas County, Vinland Valley, and I've been here for 25 years. My question to you is, where are the other two representatives that we elected? Where are they? Our property taxes have increased 35% in the last 4 years. We have tried repeatedly to reclassify our property to match the use of our property, only to be told that we have a 63-acre yard for our personal use. This does not match reality. My husband is a woodworker. We live in a forested area, and he uses wood from our property to create handcrafted furniture to sell. Yet it's now considered residential. I worked as a software developer for a distinguished professor of mathematics at our beloved University of Kansas here for 11 years. And it was from this man that I learned a very valuable lesson. And that lesson is that figures don't lie, but liars sure can figure. And if you want to convey transparency, please consider publishing your activities fully and openly and not behind a paywall of the Lawrence Journal World. Where are the capital improvements, and where are our hard-earned dollars going? Please answer us, and please listen.
Anyone else who'd like to speak on the R&R? Come on up.
My name is Dr. Justin Spees. So Patrick, as a giant pussy, how much research have you done on the revenue neutral rate? Karen, May 1st, I came in, I talked about the windmill, and I said, Patrick, as a giant pussy, how much research have you done on the windmill topic we're talking right now? And Karen, you stopped me and said that I wasn't on topic, and then you said it was fighting words. So right now, I just said the exact same thing. You haven't stopped me. You haven't accused me of breaking a law, which that is, because fighting words would be disorderly conduct. And if that was fighting words, you would have had me arrested right there. But you were able to stop me. You turned my mic off and stopped me from speaking simply because I addressed Patrick as a giant pussy instead of what? What do we got to talk to him as? Commissioner? King?
I think we need
What's
to,
acceptable?
we need to not use the specific personal attack.
That's a personal attack. So if I called him the most highly respectable commissioner, perfectly allowed? Why is that? I think, yeah, it would be a lie, and I want to tell the truth. So, Patrick, as a giant pussy, how much research have you? And then after my mic got muted on April 1st, I said, Shannon, as a giant bitch, how much research have you done on this topic? I still don't get any answers from you guys.
Point of order, Chair, I believe it's time for the next public commenter. If there's anybody else who would like to provide public comment, your time is over, Justin.
Only addressed in a certain way that's respectable, truth or not.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment on the R&R?
This is America, guys.
Sarah, do we have anyone online who would like to comment on the R&R?
I don't have anyone hands raised online.
Okay. We have one more. Come on up.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, Justin. It's fun to see you. I always enjoy your passion. And I'll talk to you guys rather
I'm
than
sorry, I
them.
didn't get your name.
I think we're going, my name's Curtis Morton. I think we're going a bit hard on these guys. They're just people, just like us.
Sir, can you address the commission?
Oh, is that who I'm talking to?
Thank you.
Well, I guess I'll face these guys, but I know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to you guys. Most of you are homeowners, I assume. If any of us could increase our budget, we probably would, just as these people. So give them a break on that. Now, they're not going to change anything. They've got their minds made up, I assume. You guys aren't going to change anything. But we do have a voice, and our voice might be our property values. I spend a lot of time keeping my house looking nice. I mow the grass. I keep the front of it looking nice. I invest money in my house every month. And the property values keep going up. 1.9%, please. 10% every year, my taxes go up. But I don't have to mow my grass. And I can park a car on my lawn, flatten the tires, or put it up on blocks and start to drive my property values down. And so can you. That will get their attention. In a couple of years, we can mow our grass and get this back under control. Something to think about. Coming to these meetings, it's fun. You get to make I do enjoy your passion, but I don't think you're going to change their minds. Well, mine was along the same lines as yours before.
Can you address the commission, please?
But you're not listening either. Your numbers don't make sense. I don't know whose values went up, whose taxes went up 1.9%. Everybody I know, they've gone up 10%. Anyway, you guys have a good night. Goodbye.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment? Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment on the R&R? Seeing none, Sarah, do we have anyone online? Okay, that will close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Any thoughts, questions, and lights? Commissioners, do you have any?
So I'll just make this question is specifically regarding a revenue neutral rate. I'll make some comments when we get to the actual budget later, because I think some of those comments are more aligned with that. I do appreciate those who don't want to pay any more taxes any year, and in fact, in order for us to stay, Brent. In order for us to have a revenue neutral rate, that would mean that there would be no additional dollars available to Douglas County year after year after year. My experience has been in that we need to recognize the increased costs that many of you are talking about, and that's also true for our Douglas County employees. They have those increased costs too. If we are to hold at a revenue neutral rate, it would make it very difficult to do any type of wage increase for our staff. If we were to do that, let's say we did decide to do a wage increase for Douglas County staff, we would have to continue to cut services and infrastructure at a rate to match that increase. So, yeah, well, thank you for, we had public comment. So I do understand, I hear what you're saying I want to pay less taxes every year. I want the county to operate on a fixed amount of money from year to year to year to year. We'll talk about, I'll make some comments about fund balance here in a minute. But I find it very difficult to stay at a revenue neutral rate year after year after year, as some of you are asking for.
I appreciate those comments, Commissioner Kelly, and I will just add that one of the last slides that we saw from Sarah was how close we are to the revenue neutral rate, which is not where the proposed budget started at the beginning of the summer when commissioners began having hearings, but through our choices and reduction of the mill levy, we are almost at a revenue neutral rate. And I just want to put a point on the fact that term and that idea from the state is a relatively new one, and it's rather nuanced, if you ask me. And as was pointed out in the presentation and is easily available online, nearly every taxing authority, whether it's your rural water district, your drainage district, your cemetery district, your fire district, townships, cities, and counties, go beyond revenue neutral year after year. That is typical because there is an increase in expenses and an increase in costs. And in order to maintain services, that is the nature of budgeting year after year. So with that in mind, I'm quite pleased that we are so close to a revenue neutral rate, because I don't believe that was I can speak for myself and say it was not my goal to get to that place. My goal was to find areas where we could reduce our mill levy overall, again, for the third year in a row, and reduce harm where possible while maintaining services and making important investments. And to see that we are that close to the revenue neutral rate is quite unheard of in local governments. And appreciate it or not, I think it's worth putting a point on, and I'm proud of the work that commissioners did in order to get us to that point this year and to build on that fact. The last couple of years, we have been able to make reductions that got us closer to that revenue neutral rate again as well. And year over year, there should be an expectation of the public that that rate is exceeded, and to understand exactly what that means in terms of the additional dollars you might pay is different for every person, every homeowner, depending on a lot of factors. I hope that presentation gave some context to the revenue neutral rate and what the impact of that change will look like. Again, knowing that it will vary from person to person depending on the type of property that you own. That's my piece about that.
Commissioners, any further comments, questions, or motions? And this will be requiring a roll call vote when we get to that point.
Sarah, I want to make sure, I'll make a motion to exceed the revenue neutral rate, but we also have a resolution. Do I need to include that in the motion? Okay, I make a motion to exceed the net revenue neutral rate for 2025 Douglas County budget and adopt resolution number 2423 to levy a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate for the 2025 budget.
Second.
Will you call the roll?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly.
Aye.
Commissioner Willie.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
That brings us to our next item, which is the public hearing for public comment on our budget. Sarah, will you have some additional information for us before we turn to public comment?
I do. Okay, Commissioners, this is the presentation for the 2025 budget overview. I just want to share the slide again that outlines our process that we went through to develop this budget. Our next slide talks about our revenues. Sales tax revenues have increased over the past several years. 2023 collections were 9.3 million in the general fund and 6.3 million in the quarter cent mental health sales tax. We did have a reduction in fees and register of deeds fees. This is really tied to interest rates and the slowing of the housing market. Interest income on idle funds was up over the previous year. So transfers are a normal part of the budget process. This is how we move funds from general funds and property tax dollars from the general fund and sales tax between funds. The first three of those transfers are to support our pay-as-you-go financing, which means we're not using a credit card to maintain our roads and bridges and equipment. Sales tax fund supports our small amount of debt, and I'm going to talk more about that later. The behavioral health, mental health sales tax is both operating and capital. This transfer represents the property tax supported funding for that work that was largely in existence before the tax was passed. The tax was meant to expand services and not replace the funding with the existing sales tax. And the workers' compensation fund is required by the state to provide our for employees that are injured on the job. This is just one slide to outline some of the supplemental requests that were funded as a part of the 2025 budget. 2.9 million included for funding for Lawrence Douglas County Fire Medical. That includes their ambulance capital replacement program. There was some additional staff added both in the proposed budget and by commissioners. And then there was 2.2 million in one-time expenses for supportive housing with a variety of different providers, and those were supported by the Behavioral Health Sales Tax Fund. I want to talk a little bit about operating fund balance. These represent fund balances for our operating accounts and which accounts are restricted. The general fund balance is at 22%, which is in accordance with our fund balance target of 25% or 3 months of operating expenses. The Road and Bridge Fund is restricted because it receives gas tax dollars from the state of Kansas. The Employee Benefits Fund has some restricted revenues, although it does receive general tax dollars, but it is restricted because it is, if it contains employee benefits and, well, employee participation to their benefits. The emergency telephone 911 fee is restricted because it is 911 proceeds that are collected on phone bills and cell phone bills, and so those funds have to be maintained separate and can only be used for that purpose. I do want to note that that fund does not support the totality of operations for 911 dispatch, and this only supplements that funding. The same is true for the Motor Vehicle Operations Fund. That fund balance is restricted. It's your motor vehicle fees you pay when you register your vehicle, and that is not enough to support the operations of the motor vehicle department, and that is also subsidized with the general fund. The behavioral health sales tax, mental health sales tax is also restricted, and it's a combination of both capital and operating funds. Our capital reserve fund balances are on the next slide. These funds are budgeted, and all of this information is on our website. So our CIP is on our website. You can click on a map and find every bridge, road, and project that we've got going. And they are planned for and budget amounts to support infrastructure and equipment. As I stated before, counties have a very limited ability to issue debt, like a mortgage or like a credit card, to finance capital improvements and pay for infrastructure. On our capital improvement plan, we are a pay-as-you-go county. That means for funding for our roads, bridges, buildings, and trucks, we save funds up and then we pay as you go to pay for them. We do not issue debt and we do not pay for them with credit. We have 197 miles of paved roads. We have 34 miles of rock roads. We have 1,081 culverts, 161 bridges, and we have 39 buildings, including a historic 1905 courthouse, a jail, a judicial and law enforcement building, and the county fairgrounds. The 1 cent countywide sales tax supports our general obligation debt, which the only piece of that is remaining is for this building that we're in right now, the Public Works building, and the radio system for 911. That's going to be paid off in 2033. The rest of the funds will support the expansion of the Judicial and Law Enforcement Center building, if the commissioners vote so later this year, a building that was built over 50 years ago with the last major renovation 30 years ago. And it will relocate our consolidated our main answering point, really our only 911 answering point for all of Douglas County, to a storm-hardened facility near here, the Public Safety Building, along with emergency management and eventually sheriff's operations, without a tax increase. We will use cash on hand for this project and any unallocated revenues coming into this fund to support any debt for this project. As the voters, and that is how the voters decided as they passed that sales tax in 1995. This is a project that we've been working on in development for over the last 5 years. Equipment reserve, those are the current totals for our equipment reserve that support the vehicles for both the sheriff and public works and our technology systems, our tax system and our 911 system. This is really a depreciation account and allows us to save up for equipment instead of using debt or credit or high lease or interest costs. And then the last number represents our ambulance capital reserve. We also are pay-as-you-go for ambulances. An ambulance costs $560,000 per ambulance. So it's a $500,000 vehicle running down the road. We replace 3 ambulances a year. And commissioners, that's all I have on the budget hearing.
You know, there's been a lot of discussion at the City Commission about Lawrence Douglas County Fire Medical. That is a shared department, shared project between Lawrence, the city, and Douglas County, with Douglas County covering medical for the entire county, not just within the city limits. One of the difficulties or odd things about that funding is that though we are obligated to all of the medical expenses and a third of shared expenses, I'm using some rough numbers there, we don't really have a say at the county over what gets funded. So we've been watching very intently the conversation at the city, what they're intending to pay for in terms of station expansion, 3 people on a truck, 4 people on a truck. Those are conversations we don't necessarily get to participate in the same level, but we do get to have to participate in the funding of that based on the contractual agreement we have with the city for LDCFM. So that was another conversation that we had during our budget time, is building in what we anticipated that the city would do and still not entirely sure what the city's final answer will be for that. But that's, if anybody's following city budget conversations, that's why we're hearing more of it there than we are here, but it certainly impacts us also. Commissioners, do you have other comments or questions for Sarah? Okay, with that, this is a public hearing item. Who would like to, I assume there are people who would like to speak, who would like to start and give public hearing on our budget?
Works. Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening. My name is Rachel Price, and I'm a resident of Douglas County. I recently saw updated data from KansasOpenRecords.gov that provides information on all 105 Kansas counties, measuring property tax increases, inflation, mill levy increases, and population growth for the periods of 1997 to 2023. Douglas County's property tax percentage increase from 1997 to 2023 was 503.6%. This is worse than any other county in our entire state, worse than all the other 104 counties across this great state. Just think about that for a minute. A chart has been distributed this evening comparing Douglas County to the other highly populated counties in Kansas. We are the worst, and that's not even close. As you can see, we are the worst, and it's not even close. Please reduce the budget and reduce our property taxes. Your annual increases are not sustainable. This current Board of Commissioners has approved the largest budgets and property tax assessments in this county's history for the past 2 years. And just stop bragging about the piddly decrease in the mill levy. It's insulting.
Thank you. Come on up.
John Ims, 812 Fox Chase Court, Lawrence.
Is that?
Okay. Congratulations to all of you. As reported by the Lawrence Journal, you have given Douglas County the highest effective residential property tax rate of any large county in Kansas. We are not proud. You are not growing the commercial tax base. That's your job. Why haven't you established a business-friendly environment to grow commercial taxes? That's your job. Food, utility, and taxes for Douglas County residents have risen sharply. As property taxes increase, so too do our home insurance costs. We are in the midst of an inflationary environment. Food and utilities are getting more expensive. As reported in the Lawrence Beat, you have created a slush fund by overtaxing residents. Give it back. Why are you not following the provisions of the Kansas itemized budget statute? Quote, no fund shall include any item for miscellaneous purposes in excess of 10% of the total. You consistently overestimate expenses, underspend your budget, and put the remainder into a slush fund. The annual budget has been inflated for several years. Actual annual spend for nearly every fund has been significantly less than the inflated budget, and the result is a cash hoarding by the county. The economy is on the cusp of recession. Businesses will be closing up shop. People will be losing their jobs. Retired and lowered income citizens cannot afford to keep their homes due to property taxes. People cannot afford rentals as landlords raise rents to pay taxes. People become unemployed and unhoused. People see their own budgets broken and must make decisions among food, medicine, and rent. No other county in Kansas has $168 million in reserve slush fund, yet you continue to raise taxes. Year after year, since 2017, you increased taxes, pushing citizens out of their homes, reducing basic safety infrastructure, and you are unsuccessful in your social programs. Homelessness is increasing. You have made the county less safe while making citizens pay more taxes and growing an ever greater slush fund. Look to New York, New Jersey, and California counties for consequential examples. People leave. Rather than have that happen, you should leave and look for a new job.
Come on up.
My name is Brent Hoffman. I'm a resident of Douglas County, 1148 Van Tile. I just want to start by pointing out that it's insulting to anyone who's paying attention that you're patting yourselves on the back about reducing the mill levy when you know that you've dramatically increased our taxes over the past several years in order to hoard cash. One wonders what exactly your plans are for the cash you've extracted from Douglas County taxpayers in recent years. Rich Lorenzo had a couple of ideas. I wonder if some of those are true. Someday we might know the answer to that question, but for now it's become clear that Douglas County has been padding the county budget. So how is the county able to pad their budget, and is what they're doing even legal? In the details of the county's 777-page budget document, there are various detailed budget line items. I want to highlight 4 different line items that appear on various funds in the county's budget. Item 99030, cash basis reserve. 99085, miscellaneous expense. 99090, non-appropriated balance. And 99120, funding contingency. Ironically, all 4 of these items are grouped under the category titled miscellaneous expenditures, total on each fund. This fact is important. Now, let's now turn to what the statute says about all this. Statute, it's 79-2927B. It says the budget shall allow in parallel columns the amount of revenue actually received from taxation and from other sources, with the amount from each source separately stated for the preceding budget year, and the amount actually received and estimated to be received from taxation and from sources other than direct taxation, with the amount for each source separately stated for the current budget year, and also the amount estimated to be received during the ensuing budget year, with the amount estimated to be received from each source separately stated, except as provided by KSA 79297A and amendments thereto. The budget of expenditures for each fund balance shall balance with the budget of revenues for such fund, and that portion of the budget of revenues to be derived from ad valorem property taxation shall not exceed the amount of tax which can be raised by any fund limit or aggregate limit placed upon such fund. Then if you look up at 79297A, at the bottom it says, the budget for each fund shall not include any item for sundry or miscellaneous purposes in excess of 10% of the total. Except for school districts, municipal universities, and community colleges, the budget for each fund may include a non-appropriated balance not to exceed 5% of the total of each fund. I am asking you today to reduce the budget and abide by this statute. Your practice of inflating budgeted expenditures must stop. It's basically what you've been doing is preemptive taxation.
Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet, "Something's rotten" in the state of Denmark. I'm Michelle Eagleman, Douglas County. I think something's rotten in Douglas County. I wanted to highlight in the budget or proposed budget 2 departments under the general fund, the first one being the commissioner section. If you look at the change over time, you see from 2021 to 2023, numbers like $300,000, $400,000. And when you get to this year, it goes up to almost 5 million. In the description under the general fund, it talks about expense approvals, further discussions, and possible losses. That's a lot of further discussions and possible losses. Do you know something we don't know? Moving on to the non-appropriated in the general fund. This has actual totals for 2021, 22, and 23 of zero. Zero. But something happened in 2024. It went up to 17 million. And then 18 million in 2025. This is how the county's padding the budget. Something happened. Not sure what it was. This is by statute over the limit. This is the statute Brent read, 79-2927A. And the county admits this 18.5 million is about 20% of the general fund. 20%. That's a big difference. Going to move on to the roads and bridges. Okay, I see a budgeted receipts and expenditures about $10 million. But if you go back again in the past, we consistently overestimate that fund by about $2 million every year. That doesn't seem necessary. Surely we can learn from the past. So between all the padding, inflating, and hoarding, grossly, obviously, mysteriously making a fund of cash that's unaccounted for, it's a shame that the people who live in this county can expect our commissioners to look out for our best interest, to be transparent and trustworthy. Instead, we're being misled. We're being gaslighted. And I don't know whether it's incompetence or you're hoarding or greedy, or maybe it's even criminal. But we need commissioners who will make constituents their priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brent Bovee, rural Douglas County. Let's take a moment to look at the fund titled Employee Benefits. It's more of the same. Budgeted expenditures equal budgeted receipts. In 25, it's 21.8 million. But in that 21.8 million of expense, there's sandbagging in this fund of 7.5. cash basis reserve of 6.4, and non-appropriated balance of 1.1. And if you look back at the annual spend in 23 and prior, those amounts are $33,000, $55,000, and $25,000, far less than $7.5 million budgeted in 24 and 25. 2 weeks ago, I attended the Board of Commissioners meeting to express my concerns about the 23 audited financial statements being materially misstated. As you know, I provided supporting documentation that confirmed my assertion. I also emailed some of the commissioners with this same documentation. To this date, I have not received a single response. It's evident to all of us here tonight why you refuse to answer our questions. I have a schedule tonight that provides details of the violations you've committed by creating miscellaneous expenditures that exceed the 10% limit in Kansas Statute 792927A across various funds. I'm asking you tonight to reduce the 25 budgeted expenditures by these amounts. The total is $14.4 million across all funds excluding sales tax funds. $13.5 million of the total is for the 3 funds with a tax levy. Reduce the budget with a corresponding reduction in property tax. Your own detailed budget schedules clearly point out you've exceeded this 10% limit. The 4 line items all total the miscellaneous expenditures on your budget. Finally, there's no reference in the Kansas Municipal Accounting and Audit Guidelines to cash basis reserves. This account or line item is nothing more than an avenue you've created to hoard our overpaid property taxes. You should be ashamed of the games you're playing with the budget, and especially for violating the state statute. Show real leadership and stop the madness. Don't ignore the evidence. Do not fail to take appropriate action. Do not vote 3-0 tonight on approving this budget. We are pursuing all options available to recover taxes resulting from the county padding this budget and exceeding 10% for the years of 2020 through 2024.
A budget. I've got a budget. Everybody here has a budget. The one thing I don't have is an ATM machine that I can go and create money from, like you do. You treat taxpayers like they're an ATM. If you have a budget, you need to look at all the items and do a benefit cost analysis. What is this person doing? And what are they costing us? The thing that I see here in Douglas County is we've got a lot of administrators and a lot of people in staff positions that we're paying for. What are they providing to us? Somebody needs to figure that out. There's no reason we should have $200 million being spent. And next year, it'll be another increase. I know people need pay increases, but they also need to earn their money. Thank you.
Been sitting there so long, my knees just about to get out. Okay, Marcia Pohl, Baldwin, Kansas. Commissioners, why are our county taxes continuing to go up every year when you have had millions in excess? For the past 7 years, you have accumulated $167.6 million, but the budgets have increased anywhere from 7.9% to 13.6% each of those years. Our cost of living, the residents of Douglas County, is only 3% a year. The county is asking us to dig deeper into our pockets each year. That is 10% more than the cost of living increase when you have the 13.61% increase. You're asking us to give more money out of our pockets to you when we don't have an increase. And this money you're taking out of our pockets is for food, health insurance, medication, housing, and more. When you give us a break on taxes, then our home evaluations increase. You are still getting money from the county coffers, just from a different pocket of the county residents. You are setting on 167, I'm sorry, I'm shaking. You are setting on $167 million in the bank, money that should be in the pockets of the people that pay your wages and the county budget. If you need more money, why not take the industry that wants to come into our county, instead of giving them a break, a payment in lieu of taxes you give them, make them pay taxes. You get more money that way instead of payment in lieu. Where is our break? The budget should be denied. Use $167.6 million that you have hoarded away for the budget. This whole county direction and money hoarding makes me wonder if that's not the idea. Make the county residents have to sell. Use the hoarded money to buy those lands that you have been given permission to buy. To the county manager. That was a couple years ago that was passed, that she does not have to ask anybody. She can just buy land if she wants to. So that she could buy land, our rural land, and put industrial solar, power stations, wind turbines, whatever, because you are trying to make Douglas County an industrial county, when in the 2020, 2030, and 2040
I'm sorry, Marcia, we hit our time.
plans, you were supposed to protect the county, not make it industrial.
Who would like to go next?
I'm Dennis Greenhaw, Douglas County. For one, I would like to thank this committee for the work that you do, but alas, I can't. Oh, and for a moment you looked so happy. For the life of me, and I have served on numerous local and state commissions, I cannot conceive how one body of supposedly rational members can be so oblivious to the facts stated here tonight. For whatever political, noxious reason, it is a total lack of transparency, integrity, honesty, competency, and credibility. Thank you.
I'm Ruth Wade, a resident of Douglas County. My past experience, I'm a retired CPA, as well as several years of budgets with corporations. I haven't seen, even for the places I've done with fund accounting, just do a comparison against, okay, here's last year's budget, now here's these future year's budgets. Once a budget is done, yes, you have to use it for your actual expenditures. You're not allowed to exceed it. But on the other hand, you should be budgeting either zero basis, i.e. what do I actually need? And it should be compared against previous year's expenditures, not previous year's budgets. The whole process of what I've seen here and listened to is just so irresponsible. And I hope this county really takes it into mind that they need to consider how they budget and what they're budgeting for. Thank you.
Who would like to go next?
So a little bit ago, I think Sarah told everybody where the money's going to go when she said they're going to renovate the judicial center and do work at the jail, right? And we're going to do that without raising taxes because we're hoarding the money that we've already got. Got it. Same thing the city did, like somebody else said previously. But you've had 2 accountants come up here and talk, and they've taken their own time to dig into this. And I got to tell you, these handouts, this commission on the budget request, this commission item is astounding to me. That this is just items that you guys just miscellaneous spend. What are you doing with $5 million that you did with $398,000 in a prior year? What are you doing with that money? Where's that $5 million going? $14 million across these, and I'm seeing some other numbers here that are a lot higher. Millions. You guys, she had a slide up there that said they're getting $1.25 million in interest. I mean, think about how much money you have to have in the bank to earn $1.25 million in interest. That's our money, guys. That's our $1.25 million that you earn there. But you just call it interest. You fucks just call it interest. That's our money. If it was in our bank, it would be interest in our accounts. But you hoard it in your bank account and you just call it another revenue stream. That is enraging. That you've created another revenue stream for yourselves out of money that you've hoarded from us. And this thing over here talking about stuff from the 90s, that we voted to do all this to ourselves in the 90s, right, Sarah? My God. You guys are just as bad as what happened to the city. You and that one over there, Shannon, trying to act like the taxpayers out here don't understand. Guys, there's accountants that have come up here and talked to you that do understand. And some of us tow truck drivers understand too. I got my housing form this year, 20% increase in value. But I got nothing else for you, but I do have a vote against you when the time comes.
Brian Farley, Lawrence, Kansas. We've had some documentation presented regarding these, funds are being over budgeted and then, transferred and withheld that may or may not exceed what's allowed by statute. So what I think the county should do in the name of transparency is provide to the public some statement as to whether or not these allegations are true and some documentation to support that position. And if it is exceeding, some sort of legal authority for why you believe that's correct. As an individual citizen, we don't have a lot of recourse. I mean, we could ask the Kansas Attorney General to give an advisory opinion on the situation. We could probably look at the recall statutes to see if a violation of law was a basis for recall. But we don't have much here other than your word to the taxpayers. These allegations have been brought forward, and I think it's imperative that the county address that at some point.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment?
My name is Dr. Justin Spees. So Patrick, as the best at being a giant pussy, how much research have you done on the budget
Sorry,
item
we've
there?
already covered that.
Oh, no, I said he was the best at it. So I was paying him a compliment. He's the best at being a giant pussy. So that was a good thing. What rule am I breaking by referring to him as a giant pussy? Michael just called you 3 fucks. He just called you 3 fucks. And that's fine, but you gotta turn my microphone on?
That's censorship.
It is. I refer to myself as Dr. Justin Spees every time, and you guys call me Justin. I find that incredibly disrespectful. I don't turn your fucking microphone off.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give
So
public
respect
comment
has to
on
go-
this item?
Respect can only go this way, huh?
You gotta give him his time. Don't be asking that question.
Thanks, man.
You don't like it. Turn your mic back on.
Is there anyone online who'd like to give public comment?
Nope.
Okay.
What rule did I violate for you to turn my microphone off? What rule says that I have to come in and pay him the utmost respect in order to speak? It's a God-given right. I spent 9 years in the Navy, living on a submarine underneath the ocean to protect that fucking right that you're gonna sit there and take away from me?
I think we have someone behind you who'd like to go.
What rule did I violate? What rule says that I have to refer to him in a nice way before I'm allowed to speak? It's a pussy move to turn his mic off. I have to jump a hurdle.
Would anyone else, are you wanting to give public comment?
And anyways, back in May of 2022, you guys did this to me. You had these guys, Flory was one of them, escort me out of here under threat of arrest. Do it then. Fucking do it. What's changed?
Dr. Spees, I think you've made your point. We'd like to make time for some others.
You're still fucked.
Come on up.
My name is Marianne Hoffman. I live in the Quail Run neighborhood. This is Supreme Court case. It's Sullivan versus the New York Times. It's March. The decision was put down in March of 1964. And one of the comments in it says, quote, "The court reasoned that defending the principle of wide open debate will inevitably include, quote, vehement, caustic, and unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. That is our right. That is a right given to us by the Constitution. That is a right given to us, then reinstated by the Supreme Court, that they can say that we can talk to you in any way we want to, as long as it's not threatening, as long as there's no threat. We can speak to you caustically, vehemently, and passionately. And if you don't like it, that's too bad. Don't sit in that seat if you can't take the heat. And I'm so thrilled that we have a vote coming in November, because I'm hoping, I'm praying that after November, I never have to eat another Shannon Reed word salad ever again. And we would actually maybe get a commissioner for District 2 that doesn't like to engage in, let's say, nefarious dealings. I'll just put it that way. So if Dr. Justin Spees wants to call you a pussy, he's in his First Amendment right to do that. And if he wants to call you a bitch, he's in his First Amendment right to do that. And if you guys don't like it, you can't make policy to then go ahead and try to circumvent his First Amendment right. That's not how that works. If you don't like it, that's okay, don't like it. But you have to sit and you have to deal with it, because that's a constituent. And he's talking to you, and he has a right to talk to you however he wants to. Sorry.
You just showed your bias.
Melanie Kaufman, rural Douglas County. So a year ago, we were in the old courthouse, and we were in the same budget conversations. And you challenged us to get more involved, and I think you've seen that tonight. There are spreadsheets out there. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're really good. So we'll get you copies of them. They're awesome. So the amount of participation is great. So we are listening to you, and we hope you'll listen to us as well. So in the budget deliberations, I heard some very specific areas that I'm concerned of for being overinflated in the budget. And a guy I used to work with used to call non-transparent items hidey holes. So we would hide them in holes. We would try not to. We would try to get rid of those hidey holes. But here's some things that I'm concerned about. So a position that was filled earlier in the calendar year, fiscal year 2024, showed up as a fiscal year 2025 new position request. I don't know what happened to that because I can't track it down. And I know our county administrator was kept offering to move things around and shift budget items around until I was lost. So when I looked at it now, I can't find that position. I don't know what happened to it, but I know it's not a new position request because somebody's actually working in that position. Assessor incentives totaling $20,000 for 2 people for job-related certification was on the requested budget. And again, the county administrator offered to move the line item to the general fund, but I can't find that, so I don't know what happened to that conversation. Over hiring practices, she also volunteered to overhire people, meaning that 2 people were filling 1 position because there was an anticipation of 2 people retiring in the assessor's office. They said it would take up to 5 years to train a new person. My estimation, that's way longer than it should be to have 2 people learning the job. So I don't know what happened to that either. Were they denied? Were they moved to a hidden fund? Not really sure what happened. And then Commissioner Willie, it was very commendable that you were willing to jump in and look at line item for line item. You're kind of shut down by Commissioner Kelly for doing that. And I kind of was confused because to us, it's really important because those budget line items are directly coming, the money's coming out of our pockets. So we're interested in that kind of stuff. But then a comment was made that you didn't want to examine the budget, especially for elected official, you know, the departments that.
I'm sorry, we got there.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to give general public comment on this? Sir, I think you've already been up, but we'll have another item coming up shortly. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet who would like to come and give 3 minutes? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Lois Ardall. I live out in the county. And what I am seeing is the last time the people got to vote on anything was the TRC and the jail expansion. And you guys are holding all this money, taking us out from being able to vote on your high price remodels, the county building onto the county building with all your stash. So you've taken the public out of this. And I think we have a right to vote on some of these big items that are going through as a county resident, as a taxpayer. But I remember the last time was the TRC building and the jail expansion that anything has ever come up for a vote. And that's been, what, 4 or 5 years ago? We have not had a say in any of this. And I'm getting ready to retire, and it's going to make it rough on all of us that are senior citizens to try to keep our farms. I fought this windmill to keep my farm. Now I am going to fight these taxes to keep my farm that I have been there since I was 5 years old. So you better not pass the budget and take a look at your expenditures with all these other people that shouldn't be there. You're overspending on help. Thank you.
Well, this may be inappropriate, but I really don't care because there's been so much disrespect here tonight. Who are these people? I know who you are, but what do you all do? Is that bad? Because I asked some questions.
That's not germane to the item under discussion right now.
Oh.
Why are you laughing?
I mean, I want to know who, nobody introduces themselves and say what their position is. Is that bad? I mean, I'd like to know.
Your question is noted. We do not typically respond to answers in the moment. This is your opportunity to make further public comment about the budget specifically. If commissioners want to answer that question or other questions later, we will.
I'm sorry, this is my first experience here, and I gotta tell you, it just sucks so bad. I can't even believe it. I've got 3 friends.
This is not germane.
I've got 3 friends that have moved out of Douglas County. this would be my last Christmas here because of this. I mean, I can't do it. Between the taxes and the water bill and everything else, if I could give you more money, I would, but I cannot. I'm tapped out, totally tapped out. So please don't do this budget without listening to these people. I mean, this is important. I just can't believe the attitude and the body language I'm seeing here tonight just disappoints the hell out of me. I'm so sad for all of us. I just am so sad for all of us.
Okay, November's coming.
Whoever you are.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment?
Hi, Amanda, Southern Douglas County. This is kind of my first time jumping on board too, and I want to thank the work of my fellow residents for bringing this to my attention, because up until now, the only attention I was able to give to it is the very painful check that I have had to write twice a year to you. And what I'm concerned about is that I know that, and I appreciate you showing us the process that you went through to develop this budget. I do. I also know that you have an option to approve it or not approve it right here and right here today. And so I am asking you to stop and to not do this and not approve this budget. Please take some time and evaluate the feedback that we've diligently compiled for you. Take some time and review this work that we have a right to understand. Please, I'm asking you to withhold your vote of approval of this budget because you do have that option. And yeah, I know you're going to come up for re-election, but I don't care. All I care about is being able to survive and be able to live in this beautiful part of Kansas. And right now, it's really damn hard. And y'all can help us. You are in a position to help your fellow community. So please do it. And additionally, Dr. Spies, thank you for speaking up for our rights to speak as citizens. And thank you for speaking up on his behalf. Because when people are muted, that is tyranny, and that is overreach of power, and that is not okay, and we're not going to stand for it. So please, I'm asking y'all, please, please, please reconsider your vote tonight.
Good evening, I'm Tom Hornick, I'm at 66049, and I'm just here because it says tax increase in public hearings. I've been paying taxes for 50 years, and this is the first time I've ever had to add each one of the tax bills up to get a total. You know, it's August 28th, and you guys don't have how much we're gonna pay for taxes yet. And the other thing I'm gonna say is, I've been here since 2014. Congratulations. My taxes have gone up 250% since 2014. Thank you. I wish I had that much of a balance so I could make money on the interest that you guys are getting on $167 million. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak? Do we have anyone online with the hand raised? Okay. Closing public comment, bring it back to the commission for questions, comments.
I do not have any questions. I will keep it short and say what I know you've heard other commissioners say tonight and at previous meetings. I hear you, and I hear that there is impact about inflation across the board, and that the property valuations inflating has had significant impact in those past couple of years. That is a fact. I don't think any one of us commissioners or any one of the administrators or parts of the Douglas County staff have ever denied that the property valuations and the historic highs in recent years have had impact on people. We see that. I hear it. I've experienced it too. I understand that it has real impact. And I believe that our job as commissioners is to seek balance and to weigh what is necessary to maintain services for our county and plan for the future needs of our county and growth of services over time and growth of expenses over time. And that our job is to balance those needs and reduce harm where possible while not creating more harm down the road by underfunding and not planning well enough for the future needs of this county. So it is not an easy position to be in to try and strike that balance between all of those competing values. And I feel confident that our budget process has brought us to a point where we have found the best possible balance, and we have explained our process and the ways in which we transfer money into those funds time after time. They have purpose, there is reason behind them, and we have very professional, experienced staff who know what they're doing.
Why did you even speak?
Seriously.
So I have just a couple of comments, and, you know, one, and these just come, I think many of the points that were made tonight, I think are really strong points, and I just want to respond to them. Some of you have asked questions, and so one question that was asked is, why do we start with valuations first before county needs? And I do feel that we look at county needs first. We start working with community partners, departments, elected officials, and ask them to put together their budgets. The comment was made that we don't look at previous year's expenditures. We look at previous year's budgets. That is not my recollection of looking at the budget book. It includes expenditures there as well. So I do think we start with needs and then determine what our possible revenues will be based on valuations. A lot has been said about the JLE renovation needing a public vote. So I think you do have a public vote, and it may not be exactly the way that you're expecting it. There's nothing in Kansas that has a bright line on where there is an expected public vote on a capital project. And that is up to the elected officials to determine when they can use capital improvement dollars versus taking it to the public for a vote on a specific tax increase for that. There has been lots of frustration with a law, with a referendum, I might be getting the name of that wrong, for a sales tax, a 1% sales tax. Some of it goes to the county and some of it goes to the city, and it doesn't sunset. And for some people, that's very frustrating because when there comes a project that they're not happy with, they'd like to approve every single project we pay for out of that capital improvement sales tax. But the sales tax wasn't written that way. And it provides for elected leaders, that was the vote, is electing leaders to make decisions about how best to use those capital improvement funds. Before I even came on the commission, we were talking about renovating the Judicial Law Enforcement Center. I think it was maybe my second or third meeting 6 years ago where we started looking at plans. Now it is certainly in everyone's attention a whole lot more. But I feel like we have not been hoarding, but saving money. I will change my language, and I appreciate that, what some of you said this evening. I'm not going to say that we can do it without a tax increase. I'm going to say we can do it without an increase to mill levy. That's different. So I hear you on that. Some of you said that there was the implication that the county appraiser is under the county administrator, and the county administrator is a supervisor of the county appraiser, but there are very specific state laws that have to do with appraisal of property. And so those are what the county appraiser follows. We don't give any input on how the appraiser should do their job. That's not something we do at all. I do not expect that Sarah does that as well. There was some feeling that public comment, it is limited just to this one moment, and I disagree with that. I welcome emails all the time from people, and I don't think your only opportunity to provide public comment, especially on services. I did hear, and I appreciate that, here are some services we would like you to reconsider. So I heard, did we really need some additional staff in the appraiser's office? That was a big conversation we had here during budget. We heard a couple of others here, but for the most part, what I'm hearing is reduce the budget, reduce the budget, reduce the budget. I understand that. I understand we'd all like to pay less taxes, and we all like to have less cost for the services and infrastructure we've come to depend on in Douglas County. But my question always is, when we say we want less taxes, is what services and infrastructure are you ready to do without? Are you ready to do without sheriffs? Are you ready to do without deputies? I mean, and I see heads nodding, and that is my job, right? That's what I'm elected to do, is to make those determinations on behalf of the people that elected me. We probably won't always agree. In fact, some of you probably will never agree with me, and I'm okay with that, right? But I think that is the process that we undergo as part of a representative elected. I heard the ask for commercial taxes. I could not agree more. We are too reliant on residential tax base for the services and infrastructure of Douglas County. We need to increase our commercial tax base. We need to increase our industrial tax base. But my experience has been is when those commercial items and those industrial items come up for either city approval or not so much county approval, but mostly city approval, there is significant resistance to adding more commercial and industrial development. We heard someone say, hey, well, the pilot said, why don't we just charge them taxes? That is state law, that we cannot take property taxes. That's not something we have control over. I encourage you to go back 2 meetings and watch that discussion specifically. On the commissioner's budget, somebody said, do you know something we don't know? I'm not going to assume that I know something that you don't know, but I can tell you how we use the commissioner's budget. Very often, we have community partners who, for some reason or another, there is something in their budget that we have questions about, that we want to continue to have dialogue. We want to create a space within here to have tough conversations, and the budget is the way of holding that space. If you listened 2 weeks ago to our work session, you heard a discussion about Douglas County Extension. Their budget request is currently being held in the commissioner's budget. It's not a secret budget line. We were very transparent at our budget hearings. Now, it isn't in there line by line, and maybe that's something we need to do more, to say this is in the commissioner's budget as a holding place for Douglas County Extension. So I appreciate that feedback. I take that feedback, and and think about that for future budgets. One person said, looking at each position to make sure they're earning their money. I do, right? There are specific expectations around electeds. And I would be happy to visit with anyone about how that is a tricky little dance that we have to do with our clerk, our sheriff, our DA, our judges. The county is expected to fund those departments, but it is really up to that department to determine how best to use those funds. It's not an easy place as a commissioner. I think you understand that, but I'd be happy to visit with someone if they have additional questions about it. So those are just some of the things that I heard. I didn't hit everything, and I do appreciate your feedback. I do recognize that it has become very difficult to keep up with the tax burdens that you see within Douglas County based on your property valuations. We do I can't speak for my other commissioner. I really do try to strike a balance. I appreciate hearing that stress, and I wish I could tell you exactly what service we need to get rid of we're not going to have, I appreciate that it might be good to have a discussion. I will tell you that public meetings and the way we run public meetings aren't the greatest way to have a discussion about ideas. Ma'am, that's not, so I think that's where I'll leave my comments at this point. See if any other commissioners have comments.
Sarah, would you introduce your staff?
My name's Sarah Plinsky. I'm the county administrator. This is Sean Peterson, our deputy county administrator, and this is Jill Jollicar, our assistant county administrator. Behind me is Jake Broadbent, and he is an analyst.
Thank you. Commissioners, other thoughts, questions, etc.?
Commissioner Kelly, make a motion to approve the 2025 Douglas County operating and CIP budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Brings us to our next item, and that is a revenue neutral rate conversation for the Consolidated Fire District Number 1. Commissioners, do you need a moment? I think we'll take a recess.
If you want to do a small recess, we can do a small recess.
I think we'll do a recess until 10 till.
10 till. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome back. Our next regular agenda item is a public hearing for R&R for the Consolidated Fire District Number 1. That's a separate budget. Sarah, do you want to kick that off?
Commissioners, yes, most of my comments about the R&R rate for the county and how that R&R process is put together and the timeline is the same for Consolidated Fire District 1, so I won't repeat that. I will say that the assessed value growth rate for the specific taxing district of Consolidated Fire District 1 was 2.15%. And that is largely reflective of a decrease in state assessed values, which are utilities. In 2023, there was a large increase on those, 57% increase on that. And that's property taxes that utilities pay to local entities. There was a correction, which we expected would happen on that. And that meant, in combination with the rest of the value of that land in terms of residential, the assessed value growth rate was 2.15%. When CFD1 was established in 2021, which was a consolidation of 5 separate township fire departments across Douglas County, it was outlined that they would have 5.5 mills, and we have held to that mill rate. That is an increase over the revenue neutral rate because of the increase in assessed valuation, but the mill levy rate of 5.5 remains. And commissioners, that is all I have on the R&R rate for Consolidated Fire District 1.
Commissioners, do you have questions or comments about that? We have had a separate hearing on this item already. All right, with that, this is a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the public who would like to give public comment? If so, you can come on up.
My name is Dr. Justin Spees. So, Patrick, as the best at being a giant wimp, how much research have you done on this? Okay, so it looks like we've cleared one hurdle there. Wimp, you can be called wimp. All right, let's see here. I'm just trying to figure out, before I even get to my question, what I want to say, how to get to that. So, Patrick, as the best at being a giant wuss, how much research did you do? Okay, wuss is allowable. All right. So, Patrick, as the best at being a giant pussy, how much research have you done on this?
Do you have anything to say on this topic?
I'm trying to figure out what exactly I need to say to you guys to be able to address you guys. So before, when I called him a giant pussy, you shut off my mic. But now I've noticed, the room is now empty, people have left, And
I
now
think
I'm-
we can
and now
hold you
I'm
to the
able-
same
Now I'm
standard.
able to say that. Say again?
I think we can hold you to the same standard as previously.
Okay, so Pat,
Sorry.
That's the best at being a giant pussy. How much research have you done on this?
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment on this
Earlier,
item?
Patrick, you talked about how you like having these conversations, but that's not true. You've completely.
Is there anyone
excluded me
online?
from this conversation.
I don't have anyone online, Commissioner.
In your eye.
I know we've had some folks who have stayed here through the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to give public comment?
All right, let me start over. Patrick, as the best commissioner in the entire world.
Dr. Spies, I think we're done.
No, I'm sorry.
Can you please sit down? You're welcome to stay.
Commissioners, you are the best commissioner ever. How much research have you done on this topic? Is that allowable?
Your time is up.
I was nice to you guys. I was nice. Can you answer my question?
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment?
Can I have my time? How much time I got left, Sarah? Why? What rule have I violated? What rule have I violated? That says in order to speak, you have to address the commissioners in a nice manner that doesn't hurt their little feelings because of little bad words.
I think we can close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
Don't be a pussy. That's all it is.
So I'm sorry, we've closed public comment. Nobody else stepped up. Commissioners, would you have any questions or comments?
You can't close public comment. You're punishing me because of that? What do you think you're doing? You can't just close public comment. like
Point of
that.
order, I heard more than one request for other public commenters after the previous commenter's time was over.
Gentleman here at this podium, and I wasn't gonna come up and.
Nobody
interrupt
else
that.
raised their hand and said that they intended to make public comment, and so the public comment period was closed.
Come up here and create a ruckus?
From in-person to online and back to in-person when somebody else showed up because.
You guys can't do this.
You can't do that.
You guys can't do that, really, because he's standing here, and I'm not gonna come up here and cause a ruckus with him over that. You want me to start a fight in here for trying to interrupt him? Are you kidding me?
Just let him speak. There's no reason not to.
Turn the mic on, I got 3 minutes to speak.
There's no reason not to. Guys.
Sarah, turn the mic on, and I got 3 minutes to speak. You can't punish me for what happened before me.
Did you even check online if anybody was speaking?
I heard that the public comment on this item has been properly closed.
It's been closed.
Guys, you had the man here, am I supposed to start a fight with him next time? Is that what's supposed to happen? Do you want me to do that?
So with the public comment closed on this item, I'll make a motion to approve exceeding the revenue neutral rate for Consolidated Fire District Number 1 and adopt resolution number 24-24 to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate for the 2025 budget.
Second.
Sarah, can you call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Willie?
Yes. That brings us
Passes
to our
3-0.
next item about a public hearing for the budget of Consolidated Fire District 1. And Sarah, do you have a presentation for that?
I just have a few comments, Commissioners. I do want to note, Interim Chief John Mathis is here with us tonight. CFD1 responds to more than 1,100 emergency calls each year. The department has seen a 7 to 10% increase in call volume each of the past 3 years. Approximately 50% of the calls are for EMS or medical emergencies, including motor vehicle accidents. CFD1 maintains 10 stations across Douglas County with 40 apparatus available for emergency response. Two stations are staffed full-time and one station is staffed on a per-day basis. There are 5 full-time staff, 60 volunteers that respond to emergencies in CFD1. Also, I'd note that the biggest financial issue really facing Consolidated Fire District 1 is the age of its equipment and our ability to replace them. We have created a reserve fund for equipment, vehicles, and buildings specifically to address the aging fleet of fire engines, water tankers that are essential for fire service within the district. 6 engines and 2 water tankers have more than 15 years of service and will require updating or replacement. Establishing a reserve fund will allow us for a plan for replacement of those larger, more costly apparatus. And Commissioners, we stand for any questions you have on the Consolidated Fire District 1 budget.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have initial questions or thoughts?
I don't, thank you.
I'd like to just bring up a topic that's kind of come up in through my other roles about the RIT team, which actually is funded through our county budget, but there's, I think, a larger conversation to be had between Consolidated Fire and the other fire districts about the future of that team and the future of that funding. So I think that can probably be held at the chiefs meeting, but I would just recommend a larger conversation about the folks who've been involved in standing up that team and what's happening with that equipment. I know we've had a conversation about CFD1 and their budget already. Chief, did you have anything you cared to add to that? You don't need to. Sorry, you have to come to them. Sorry, I can't hear you.
John Mathis, in regards to your RIT team.
Are you green?
Closer than John.
Yep. No, go ahead.
John Mathis, Consolidated Fire District. To your point on the RIT team, it is going to be brought up at this next chiefs meeting this Thursday, the 6th, I believe.
Right, thank you.
And I have another comment. Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else before public comment? Okay, this is a public comment item. Is there anyone who'd like to give public comment on this item?
Who the hell do you think you are? Really? You're just creating more problems for yourself. It's clear that he shut off over a single word.
Point of order.
And that's
Chair,
going to be a problem for your
the
budget.
comments need to be directed specifically to
Well,
this item.
how about the point of order of my damn microphone being cut the fuck off a little bit ago and none of you do nothing about it? And I didn't even get a chance to speak on the last item.
I don't think that's what this item is about.
Yeah, so let's work your little magical little shuffle of policy here and
Do
make
you
sure
have
you do it
anything you'd like to say
in
on this item?
ordinance with everything else that's going on here. You guys
Then
are
we'll
just
ask you to
nuts.
stop. Thank you.
Ask me to stop? You guys are just continuing to shut off microphones tonight and creating issues for yourself, guys. Creating issues for yourself over a word. And then you shut me down and wouldn't even let me speak on the last topic. That was a direct violation of me.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment on this item?
Yeah.
Keep it open, keep it open, keep it open.
Keep it open. All right, my name is Dr. Justin Spees. So, Patrick, as the best at being a giant P-U-S-S-Y,
Dr. Spees, do you have anything to say on this item?
I'm getting to it, Karen. Anyway, so like I was saying, Patrick, as the best at being a giant P-U-S-S-Y,
Justin, do you have anything relevant to this item?
yes, I'm getting to it. I'm calling him what he is. No different than if I called him commissioner. Let's try it this way. Patrick, as the best commissioner in the history of the entire world, in the history of the universe.
Do you have anything relevant to this item? If
Yeah,
not, we
I'm
will
getting
ask you
to
to
it, Karen.
stop.
I'm getting to it, Karen. Let me collect my thoughts here for a
Okay,
second. I've been
Sarah.
interrupted. Let me collect my thoughts.
Sarah,
Here,
if you don't mind.
hold on a second. Hold on a second. What?
No, now what have I done? What have I done? What have I done now?
You're welcome to stay, but your public comment is finished.
No, fuck you, Karen.
Mhm.
So now I can't even spell a word in here? We're not even allowed to.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment relevant to this item?
A-N-D, and. Is that allowed? Is that a word that can be spelled in here?
Do we have anyone online?
We do not have anyone online.
Okay. Asking, do we have anyone in the room who'd like to give public comment on this item who hasn't spoken yet?
All of you. All of you. That's free speech. That's protected speech right there.
Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for conversations, comments, questions, or a vote.
Motion to adopt the 2025 Consolidated Fire District Number 1 budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That is the end of our regular agenda. I will turn it to Sarah for your weekly manager's memo.
Thank you, Commissioners. My weekly memo is attached. We have a drug court graduation on September 6th in the Division II courtroom. And attached is some information related to the Douglas County point in time count. We also received our final procedural compliance letter from the Director of the Kansas Department of Revenue Property Valuation Division concerning our substantial compliance with the appraisal process. And next week, we are going to have a work session on the flexible housing pool that was a part of the 2025 proposed budget discussions. And then on the 11th, we will not have a work session on the 11th. And then we've got work sessions the rest of September on the books at this point. And commissioners, that's all I have at this time.
Do we have any appointments?
No, I don't believe I have any appointments for you unless you all know something I don't know about.
Okay, I think we have some in the works, and I think we'll keep working on that through the week. Commissioners, do you have any other miscellaneous items for tonight? Okay, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.